I used to carry a 9mm all the time. A little bit of failure is what makes you stronger. Recycle your pain. You can't just say, okay, let's pull up my bootstraps and let's do this. I wanted more. I wanted more. I needed more. I needed to be successful for myself. Fear is manifested in our mind. I'm Scott Binsack, and thank you for joining me. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing knowing your why, finding your purpose. I believe we all have gone through life wondering what our purpose is here, and why do others become successful? Why do others not? Why is one company more successful than the others when they can sell the same similar products? Understanding our why is a key to understanding our purpose. The why comes from the central part of our brains. The why is why you'll find some who go and will stand in line and wait to watch Star Wars to be first, while others will wait a week until after the movie has been out and they don't have to be the first. Everybody has a why. Great leaders have and know their why. Most great leaders have been created because people don't buy what you do, okay? They buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do. People buy why you do it. Understand what I'm saying. This is the key to the why. An example, why do people buy Apple instead of Dell? Is it because they have a better marketing campaign, or is it because they have a better product? Or is it because, and people will buy and wait to be first to buy the iPhone. They will wait in line, order it, and others will not. You'll ask somebody, why did their company fail? And you'll always get usually same answers when somebody does. Well, it was the economy, it was this, I ran out of money, I didn't have enough capital. But yet other people during that time survived and made it. Why is Apple bigger than Dell? Why is Microsoft bigger than other computer companies? Because their founders understood their why. You have great leaders. Another good example would be Martin Luther King. He didn't tell people what to do. He told them his beliefs, his purpose, what he believed was right. He didn't tell them, do this or do that. He told them he believed that equality was X, Y, and Z. He believed that we are all equal. That was his belief. That was his inner why. And he happened to fall in his purpose at a time that was sought to hear that message. And thus his purpose. When you could have other leaders telling you, do this or don't do that, or don't do this and do this, I want you to do this because of this. People are attracted to us, all of us, because of our inner whys, so to speak. Again, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And that doesn't come, so to speak, from your heart so much, but part of it does. Most of it comes from the inner cortex of our brains. Our central thinking process. Because we are the people, again, who run out and are sold what is around us. Not everyone, though. I didn't go, I wanted a Samsung TV, the new 4G. And it was like $6,000. People were waiting in line to get this TV and had them on order from Best Buy.
I've waited and watched and waited for it to drop in price before I'll go and buy it. While others had to be first and get that TV and say, I got that TV, I got my iPhone 6, I got this, I got that. They had to be first. They had to be first. Where's their purpose? Most people walk around not knowing what purpose they are at all. Most companies go into business not knowing what their purpose is to be in business. Our leaders go around and try to lead, but fail miserably. Good leaders hold a position of power by inspiration, by their core beliefs, their whys. Their whys. That's what makes a great leader, and that's what makes a great person. That's why some companies are great and others are not. That's why some companies succeed and others fail. Understanding, and that's why when I ask people, what's your purpose? You'll get all these answers, or why did your company fail, or why did you do this, or why did your marriage fail, or why did you whatever. It's our inner thinking process. It's our passions, it's our drive, it's our purposes. But that comes from the why. Why do people follow me more than someone else? Why was I able to be homeless at 15 and be by 18 owning my own company and being very successful and building multi-million-dollar homes in the Hamptons? And this is where it got me thinking this a long time ago. When I was younger and I became so successful, and the drive that I had and the purpose that I had was from my soul. It was my why. I loved what I did. I loved building homes. I loved the smell of fresh sawdust in the morning. I can't explain it to you. I could read blueprints at 12. I loved building tree forts, and I had them all there. I would build one everywhere I could get my hands on. A good example is back in the early 20th century, we had the charge for flight. We wanted to fly. People wanted to learn how to fly. Most people wouldn't remember this man, but his name was Samuel Lacey. He was a recipe for success. Harvard, had all the right connections, knew all the smartest people, everything. He was granted a government contract. He was given $50,000 by the government back then. And that was, early 20th century. That's a lot of money. So he had all the power and the knowledge and the money to create flight. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, we had Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had no money, really. Nobody knew about them. And Samuel had the New York Times following him around all the time and writing stories about them, and Orville and Wilbur Wright had no one writing about them. And they didn't have the money, and they didn't have that, but one thing they did have, Samuel was after the glory and the money, and Orville and Wilbur Wright were after flight. The passion. They were driven to the point where they would do whatever it took to grab it. They weren't after the success or the money. They just wanted to fly. They wanted to know what it felt like to fly. They wanted to create this machine and fly. And they tried and they tried and they tried. And who succeeded? Orville and Wilbur Wright. Not Samuel. Samuel failed miserably. Again, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Why do some of us, again, I'll use the example, why do some of us have to go to the movies before, the minute it comes out, and others do not? Why do some people want to be successful, or want to open their own businesses, or want to have successful marriages and relationships, but can't? It all comes from within. I didn't go into business to make lots of money. I went into business because I loved what I did, and I didn't know anything else. I quit school at 15, roughly. I didn't know anything else. My passion was, and I used to remember when I was a kid, and I always loved the ocean. I grew up on the ocean. I always loved the water. I was always driven to the water, whether it be boating or at the beach or whatever it may be, even fishing, but mostly it was boating and sailing and water skiing and just being at the beach and swimming. But I always loved beach homes. I was always attracted to these large, incredibly big homes built on pilings. And I always thought to myself, like, wow, I would love to build one of those houses one day. Not for myself, for someone else. And you mix a little of severe child abuse and the drive and being told you're going to be nothing and being abused on a regular basis, not by one, but by multiple. And you mix that in with some serious high IQ and some brains and a talent and a gift that I had. That's why I've been called a protege on magazine covers. Here's my why. Here's my why. Because I did it from within. I did it because I loved it. Orville and Wilbur Wright did it because they were driven. And that was their purpose, was to create flight. Others will get lost. Other companies will fail. Other people will just go by the wayside. Because they go around continually being fed the static that we get fed every day and not knowing their why. And that's what separates the leaders, the true leaders, from the poor leaders or the wannabe leaders. That's what separates the successful from the unsuccessful, because people are drawn to companies, people are drawn to individuals because of their beliefs, their whys, their attractions. One of the things for me, and it took a majority of my life, and I still learn it every day, but once I found who I was and what my why is and where that passion came from, and I could be me and not worry about what anyone else thought, I found my purpose. And when you find your purpose, it's just like employees. Most people will go hire employees just to hire employees. So that's why we'll say there's two companies. One, they're both given the same amount of money. They both have the same idea. They both sell computers. They both build computers. But yet one CEO and owner has this incredible passion, has this incredible desire to dress in jeans every day and just develop and create and wants to change the world, not for the money, but because he wants to, comes from within. For whatever path it took for him, that's what it was. While the other one was given the same amount of money, we'll say, and was in it to create a company for the money, okay, to make a lot of money. Dressed in the suits every day, did everything, just hired people for hiring them. The example I'm giving you is Apple versus, we'll say, Dell or anyone else. Apple and Steve Jobs, their main hiring practice was to hire people, still to this day, to hire people who have the same vision and same drive and same purpose as they do. If you can hire employees and find those people, those are the people that will work and sweat and bleed for you because they have the same purpose, the same why. And you'll get 50 times more out of them than you would someone you just hired without having an understanding that they have that they don't, if they don't have the same why. The why comes from the center and the core. It's the same with anything in life. We are fed from out here. Okay? We are fed from everything being fed into us. Some take it in, while others don't have to run and don't take it in and don't have to run and wait in line to get or order their first iPhone. I got it first. Because in reality, that's where it is inside the mentality. I got the phone first. I was one of the first people to get the iPhone. I got an iPhone. I was never one of those people. And however I got there, I still work on thinking about that every day. And it had to be the combination of my upbringing and the situations I've gone through in my life and the mistakes I've made, and understanding that I only just wanted to do what I love to do. It's just like now with building websites and branding people. People say, well, why would you want to help me like that or lend me the money or give me the money to start my dream and just let me put a deposit and you'll do the rest? It's because if I believe in the dream and you believe in the dream, what do we have? The same purpose. And together, we can be successful. Where others would like to say that they are like that or want that, but they really don't have it. They don't have their why, and sometimes I'm even fooled too. Because you'll think you'll have somebody who has the same why, the same purpose, the same drive, and you listen to their stories and you want to help them. But in fact, all they're looking for is the money. People always asked me when I was younger, they're like, how could you have this? I'm telling you, I've done other shows and told this story, and it's in my book. I got infiltrated by the DEA, by somebody, a head DEA agent, and I've told this story in some of my, there's a show on Sunday night with Scott Binsack on a show, and it's an older show, and it didn't get seen much back then, but because they saw this young man, 20 some odd years old, on the cover of magazines making millions. And they said, there's got to be something else there. He's got to be selling drugs. He's got to be doing this, got to be doing that. And now the man, Richie, who's my friend, and that's the name he's been given, not by me, but by him, by them, is a man that I'll still honor to this day because he got his way in my company, and I got my way into him, so to speak. And he saw my why. He saw my purpose. He saw my drive. He saw me work and sweat and bleed and work 7 days a week and take care of children and a household and take care of, my life and expand, do what I had to do and fall down and get up and deal with many situations that come with success, as well as handling a childhood I never dealt with. My way of dealing with my childhood back then was to turn that anger and that pain into fuel, into determination. And that's a big part of my why. And then the money just came because I used the gifts, the purpose that I had. And then I used that money to hire other people and to build other things and to be there for other people. And this is how the effect works. That's what determines a great leader from a non-great leader. And I'm not saying I'm a great leader. I'm trying to point out, because I'm far from that. I'm just me. And I'm be happy with just being me. And if it helps others, wonderful. I want to check to see if this is being... Dawn, can you please check to see if this is being fed out live? Because there's only 2 viewers. There's something going on. So as I go back to Orville and Wilbur Wright, I'll say it again. Why did the man with Samuel, with all the money and the Harvard education, fail at flight, and two guys in a cornfield in the middle of the United States, nobodies, no New York Times following them, no money, succeed in creating airplane flight. Why? Because their passions, their purposes, their determination, their drive was different, and for different reasons. Hence, why we have, we'll say, successful people and non-successful people. And I don't just mean by money. People who struggle with their life all their lives, who get stuck in the same place and don't go very far, who don't listen, who don't want to learn, who don't want to understand their why, and thus their purpose and what their passion is, because they're being fueled by what's outside of them. And we'll take a brain, a picture of a brain, so to speak, and we have a round circle. And then we'll have another round circle, and inside is the core. So you have to go at the why, what. The why is in the middle, way in the center here. Everything is having to go through these to get to that central part of the brain. And you're being fed this every day. Leaders hold a position of power.
Yes.
True leaders lead by inspiration from within. And Dr. Luther King is a very good example. And yes, he had his, I'll say even Kennedy was the same way, okay? They were not perfect men. But one thing that they did have that made them great leaders is they led with their beliefs. They led with their whys. And they changed our world. They changed our society. Apple has changed our society. Google has changed our society. Not so much for the better in some cases. Same thing with Apple, same thing with any technology. Sometimes I think, I love technology, I love the internet, I love social media, I love to be able to express myself to the world. But at the same time, we're missing that core value of interaction with others, like truly one-on-one. Instead, we're always, this is what we're doing. And when we don't have it, it's like, oh my God, we've lost it. We've lost it. Some inspires and others don't. And as it goes back to the same thing, you can't inspire what you don't believe in. You can't inspire others if you don't believe in it yourself. And that's why I am so fueled by people when they say, that's not true. And I'm going to tell everybody tonight something I have never told anybody. It's in my book. But I will tell you something. And why I get so upset and why I go after, we'll say corruption, or anyone who calls me a liar, or who can't believe what is really true and what isn't. When I was little, and I can remember I was 2.5 the first time I remember being abused, and I can remember coming down the stairs from my grandmother's house and telling my mother, first off, and I can remember this, 2.5, 3 years old, telling them, however I told them, that I was being touched and that my uncle had touched me. Right away, they believed the uncle and not the 2.5, 3-year-old, however I was, 3 years old child. And it was that way for many years. It was all kept as they wanted to not face it. And even later in the years, I found and got proof of it, of both uncles admitting what they were doing on tape recordings. And then I told it and showed it to the family, and they were all still living in denial. Most. Oh, that's not what? Videotape. Maybe that's why in fact, I know why. I hated being called a liar because I was reaching out to adults who I trusted, or I thought I could trust, to protect me as a child, as children should be protected. And then even when I became so successful, sure enough, I had to be doing something else instead of just building homes, not just doing my why, which I was gifted, and that's what I'm called a protege for what I know and how I knew it, and I can't explain how. I just knew it. I was reading blueprints at 12. But it was my passion. I mean, even the smell of walking in a freshly framed house and seeing clients so happy that when you deliver them something, it's like today when you make somebody, or you build them a website and you take them from here and you bring them up to here. Just that alone builds confidence within someone, and it helps them suck out their why and thus their purpose, and gives them a purpose. Because many people don't have their purpose. They don't know their purpose and thus their why. But when you can give them one and show them that they have the why, you watch a whole different person because of the confidence alone. And then once that energy gets going, they're just attracting it in, and their they become successful. But most people then falter, because once you're successful, they don't need anybody else anymore. These people don't know their why. And I know, I was there once. And didn't know my why. And I self-destructed I was 28 years old, 29 years old. I self-destructed a company back then in the late mid-90s that was doing almost $20 million a year in building only X amount of homes. But I was a success. And at the same time, I was my own self-destruction. Because you have to understand your why, and you have to deal with other issues that go on in your life before you can move forward. It's like I teach people today. Before you can go forward, you must go back. And nobody wants to go. A lot of people don't want to go back. It's too painful for them to go back. But to get to your why, and thus your purpose, you need to go back, because you need to go back in life and find out. Everything is a result of something that's happened to us, or what we get fed from the outside into that circle in the brain. You got to get through, and it gets into that. And thus your heart, so to speak. But it's really your brain. Your soul, your conscience. People don't buy what you do. People buy why you do it. And that goes with the friends and people you have around you as well. Remember that. Remember to find your why. And some will go on their whole life not knowing their why. I'm glad I know my why. I'm glad I don't care what other people think of me. And I'm glad I know why I defend other people when they've been hurt or harmed, and I end up standing up for them, because some the ones that can't stand up for themselves. Because I was that person once, and no one stood up for me. And I know what it's like to be falsely accused. I know what it's like to not be believed when you're being sexually abused and physically abused and mentally abused. Severely. And it's the combination of all of these things that has made the man who I am today, and the failures along the way as well as the successes along the way. Because we all have a purpose. Everyone here has a purpose. Like I said it again, people followed Dr. Martin Luther King and others because they were preaching what they believed. They knew their why, and thus their purpose. And thus the same with Apple and other major companies that are successes where others are failures. Are you the first one to run out and get an iPhone? Or are you the person who will sit back and say, I don't have to be first to get an iPhone, because you're feeding into exactly what they want you, the great corporate conglomerates want you to. You wouldn't have to be number one with an iPhone if you knew your why. And you knew the confidence that comes with that. I believe insecurity is one of the biggest problems we face today, along with depression and other matters in the world. Insecurity is basically a false fear. And where people are insecure because of what was fed to them, whether it be growing up or what's been, it's our society also lives in fear now of terrorism. Everybody's a terrorist, or this, they fall into this terrorist category. They want us to live in fear. They want us to be in fear. I think that's why Donald Trump, and a lot of people don't like him, a lot of people do like him. I happen to like him. I happen to know the family as well. Because he really is up there telling you what he believes. And that's why he's leading. He's opening people's eyes. Whether he's great presidential material or not, he's there for what he believes. And he can't be bought. So that goes with the beliefs. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Why are people driven to others, and why are they not to others? Because one's got a passion and a belief, and the other does not. And other people, as human beings, we can sense the difference. We know the difference. And people want that when you're successful, and a true leader, and a true why person. And I mean a leader could be a leader in your own home, be a leader in your own life. You need to be a leader for yourself. You need to know your why for yourself. You need to lead you. You need to lead you before you can lead anyone else. You need to find you before you can help anyone else. A lot of people go around in life helping other people to cover up their own insecurities and inequities. Insecurities because they can't get it. They don't get it, so they cover it up by helping others or acting as if they can help others with something they have their own issues with. It's one of the biggest psychological covers that there are. They create a world, and they live in this world, and it's so, again, why are certain people driven to have to wait in line to get the first iPhone? Or why did people buy the biggest screen TVs when they first came out, and others waited? Why did Samuel fail on flight and the Wright brothers not? And Samuel had all the power, he had all the knowledge, he had the education, he had the money, and the Wright brothers did not. But two guys, Orville and Wilbur Wright, in the middle of cornfields, discovered flight and created flight, where Samuel did not. Because Orville and Wilbur Wright were not in it for the money. And I'm just using that as an example. Then money is not about really all of this. But my point is, their why, their drive was from within, because something drove them to want to fly. And it wasn't money. It wasn't. I was driven not for money. I was driven to follow what I love, and to survive. But mainly to do what I loved. It's the only thing I knew. And I knew I had to do it because that's the only thing, that's what I knew. And the success came with that, and the money then came with it. Where others in the same position as me, and they're in their 40s and their 50s, would walk up to me and say, and become jealous and go, well, how did you do this, kid? I've been doing this for 40, 50 years, and you came in here and I took over in an area that's very, very hard to break into. And that was not a plan. I just started to work out there doing work for people. But why did I succeed and they failed? Just like why did I fail at other areas in my life and not in others? The emotional categories, the categories that go with the why I didn't know. You know, the not dealing with the abuse, not facing it, not knowing, not hiding it with other things. We really learn our why as we go along. But it's your drive, it's your purpose. That's where your purpose is behind the why first, and then the purpose. What purpose did Orville and Wilbur Wright have? Think about it. Where would the world be today without airplanes? Everything happens for a reason. And it wasn't the guy that with the Harvard education. I don't have a Harvard education. And I've built 3 multi-million-dollar companies, and no one will take that away from me. And I think that's why I used to get super defensive when someone said I was lying because of what happened to me as a child, because I would reach out to adults and they wouldn't listen. They wouldn't believe, even after proving it. And even after having the man arrested after I was taken to a hotel and raped repeatedly as a child. And he was arrested, and he got off because of who my family was and what they knew. You know, people who they knew. Got a slap on the wrist. But the detectives believed me. The detectives, everything I said, every time, the times, the dates, the places, the things, that everything panned out. No why, no purpose. If you think your why is to make money and to be rich, you know, it's funny, a lot of people are born into money, but you know where the money came from? Majority of the time, we'll say 90% of it, from very determined men or women because of their beliefs, because of their inner drive. And it wasn't for money. And then there were others who became successful, and we can go down the line, who lost it all in the first stock market crash. And then others, you know, same thing. Martin Luther King said it best, I have a dream, not a plan. The dream is the why. We'll say the plan is the part of the purpose and how to get there. But the why is the dream and the drive. Excuse me. I don't know why my phone won't shut off. Oh, there it goes. I didn't even know it was on. Apologize. People don't buy what you do. People buy why you do it. They can see and sense it, see it, feel it. And if you want, it's like people keep going, I keep attracting the same man or the same woman. Or the same bad employees. I can't find anybody to work for me. I can't do this. I can't do that. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? The why is because they don't have a why. There is no purpose there. They don't know who they are. So they'll keep emanating out the same things and getting the same things back, even though they think it's going to be different. Excuse me. First my phone and now I'm yawning on my own show. What does that tell you? Actually, I've been up for 24 hours working. And I'm doing the show and I'm enjoying it. Great leaders, great people hold positions of power or even positions of respect amongst others by their inspiration. They lead by inspiring others, not leading by telling them. People will be drawn to you for that. Understand your why, and your purpose will be very clear. Just keep thinking about what I'm saying to you. People don't buy what you do. People don't buy what you do. That's why you could have two computer companies or two car dealerships selling the same cars, and one does much better than the other one. Okay? They buy why you do it. And that's, oh my God, excuse me. That's why people are driven to Apple. And I'll say it because of the vision, the why of Steve Jobs. And when that vision changes, if it ever does, Apple will fail too. Hopefully that will never happen. But you'll be bound to fail if you change or don't stick with the why and the reason. And a lot of us will get caught up in it, and I have been there. And I used to remember telling myself and others back then when I got so big and so wealthy and so successful at a young age. But what did I know in my young kid as a 20s? I know I'm yawning like crazy, and that's very rude, and I apologize. But I'm being me. Anybody who knows me knows. So back to what I was saying. We lose sight a lot of times of where we came from, and thus our why. When you hit that successful point, we get comfortable, when in fact we need the why more so when you reach that point. You need the purpose. Stronger. Harder. Oh my goodness. This is bad. Hope you're not falling asleep on me. The show can't be that boring. drinking water. But I would tell myself, I said, Scott, I can remember going down and I would drive down to the beach. Even though I lived on the beach, I would still go to a special spot by my great-grandparents' house. It was a very private beach, and it was my peaceful place. And I can remember, I would ask myself, what the hell's going on? I'd look over and see I had, brand new 500 SL. I had a fleet of $1 million of cars, houses, boats, you name it. $1 million fleet of trucks, $1 million office building. What was missing? What happened? Where did I go wrong? Goodness, I'm so sorry for yawning. But I will say this, I've worked very hard in the past 24 hours. And then some. And I like to work hard. But I lost sight of the why. And when you lose the why, you get caught up in the current, and then all of a sudden it just escapes you. And I remember a gentleman who's deceased now, a client, older client, who's a good man, big client of mine. He said, Scott, remember why you started. And I can remember him saying to me like a week before that, when shit just started going wrong, and I didn't have things go wrong for years in my business. Everything just sailed. One door opened to the next door, to the next door, to the next door, to the next door. My why was on its purpose, and it was flowing. It was flowing. I wasn't doing so well in my personal life because I used business to cover up the pain of the other. So I became a workaholic. But it was also my why because I loved it. It was my passion. It was my purpose. And I wasn't such a great dad either. When my children were very little, I was. And I was there, but it got to a point where some things happened that I lost sight. I lost track. And I forgot and lost who I was and what my why was. And I knew the why, but I really didn't know me. I had to find me, And we have to walk through some pain, a lot of pain usually, to get to the depths of understanding why we do certain things. And others we can never explain. Others, that's why judging people is a tough thing, because you have no idea what they've gone through to get them to why they are doing certain things that they are doing. All we know and see is that it hurts us or others. But we've never, a lot of people, I should say never, I don't like that word. Most don't say, I wonder why they're doing what they're doing, or why they're behaving the way they're behaving, or why did they turn to alcohol or drugs or abuse or affairs or sex or whatever it may be to fill a need, a void. The why is missing. The purpose is missing. So they're filling it with something else. And I know I've been there. And I guess that's why today, and things I've gone through, that I stand up and fight. Not everything. But when I'm pushed, and I'm accused, and I'm called, or I see someone else having to go through the same thing and no one helping them, and claiming to be their friends, and they're not really their friends, and they're using them, I stand up for them. And if it happens to me, I stand up for myself. Because never again. Never, ever, ever again. And that's why I hate being called that. I hate that word, liar. It's not happening. That's why I so put out the proof and the truth and this and that. You want to see it? Here. You want to see it? Here. Go ahead. Just like this Ventura County saga. I converted it into something because I want people to see the truth, because they opened the doorway, and I will not be accused of something I did not do or that I claim to have that I don't have, etc. And I'll say, it's not what I think, it's not because of what they think. I don't care what they think. I care that they're defaming me and not taking responsibility for their own mistakes, faults, actions. Because someday, no matter what, the karma comes back and you have to take responsibility. And I know, been there, done it several times. Fall down 8, get up. But that's how we learn. We're supposed to learn. Understand your why. And remember, the best leaders of our time were those who led by their beliefs, not by others, but by their own, and who stood up and made a mark. And that's why I believe many people are attracted to me, and I have a great big following, and it's growing, because I am just me. I like being me, and you don't have to like me. I have to like me, and I have to go to bed at night and be able to sleep. And I have a purpose, like we all do. But until you figure out your why, and people who hate and are jealous, they don't know their why. They go through life in circles, sadly. And there's many alleged leaders that do the same thing. They don't know their why. They think they do, but they don't. Great, great leaders of our time led with their beliefs. They inspire. They lift others up. They lift the countries up. They lift our military up. Like I told you, you hire an employee who has the same beliefs and drive and why as you, you'll get 50 times more out of them, and your business will thrive, and you'll get through the roughest times than you would if you just hired someone who just had the paper qualifications, we'll say, or etc., but not the why or the belief of the same. And that's how Apple hires its employees, and how Steve Jobs built his company, by finding others who had the same why as him, or similar why to his. Be an inspirer. And you know who you have to believe in the most? Yourself. And you don't need anyone to tell you that you are good or bad or whatever. You need you. Find you. You'll find your why. And it's very simple, meaning if you think about what I'm saying to you, it's really true, and it's not theoretical. It's not my opinion. It's actually true psychology, true, factual. The central cortex of our brain is where the why lies. And even our heart and our soul, so to speak. And that's the key and the core to it. It comes from deep within. And that's why I talk about the government, and I talk about things, and it's not rhetoric, it's truth. People are sheep. Most people are sheep. And when I see Hillary Clinton's numbers, and I don't want to bring up politics in my Sunday night shows because they don't, but I have to make a point here. Democrat or Republican, let's forget about the parties for a second. When you vote for a leader of our country, or anyone of that stature, a true leader, true leaders lead on inspiring. Hillary Clinton does not inspire. She is a liar. She is a murderer, in my opinion. She is, and it has nothing to do with, if there was women, male, it doesn't matter to me. The president could be an alien for all I care, as long as they take care of our country and don't belong to the big and be controlled. And that's where I get, people, so many people are jealous of Donald Trump. It's amazing, and how much, and what the Republican Party is doing to him at the core is sick. And this has nothing to do with, meaning, whether you like him or you don't. Think about what's going on and how people have changed and what people do in this country and how bad they'll slander, how bad they'll harm, defame, make up stories, whatever it takes for control and power. There's no why there. There's no inspiration in leading by belief, their inner beliefs. That's greed. That's control. Find your why and stick to your beliefs, and inspire others, and you'll inspire yourself. Follow your dreams. Good night, and God bless.